junction for sports. We can make sports better.
Power through one really quickly because we're all, and if you're watching this, you know Trey Lance. Everyone knows the Trey Lance draft. He goes 3 overall. San Francisco trades a boatload of picks. They're first that year, they're first and third the next year, and then they're first in 2023. They did it to a guy who, since 2016, played in about 20 competitive games, and he's drafted in 2021. That's high school and college. This was draft diversion 101. His stock went through the roof. They compared him to Steve McNair on draft day. There was just so much hype about him. He missed, obviously he didn't play the COVID year. He opted out that year. So I think he started 8 games in high school and 13 games in college, and it was at North Dakota. So you didn't really know much about this guy. 2016 to 2020, he played 20 competitive games about. So there was so much. That was the epitome of the story you wrote, Draft Diversion 101.
Yeah, no, that is a good one. And it was mind blowing. And it's funny because last year I kind of got the same feeling when Anthony Richardson was kind of jumping up the draft board. I got the same kind of feeling. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a better player than Trey Lance. But no, I agree with that one 100% as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that one's an easy one to fly right through because at this point, everybody knows the Trey Lance draft. So, all right, Steve, who do you got for number 3? I can't hear you.
Sounded funny.
Sorry, it cut out for a second there. Start again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So for my third, I'm going to go with Justin Gilbert, the corner. He was picked number 8 by Cleveland.
Okay, good one.
Yeah, just another one that was everything around him was always going to be a great corner. He's got the size. He's 6'2", this guy. And it didn't pan out for him. I mean, Cleveland doesn't pan out for a lot of people at that, in that era.
God, no.
But 3 seasons, but the write-up on him was exactly, he's strong enough, he's fast enough. He's going to be able to take on the biggest corners in the league day one. He's going to be a starter taking on the big guys. And 3 seasons later, he was out of the league. Just couldn't do it. And it was just, you kind of feel bad for some of these kids when they go through that.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those.
Yeah, I mean, not his fault that they wrote him up and wrote him this, great write-up that pushed him up in the top 10 of the draft. But, a guy who couldn't hang in the league, he couldn't cover. So, I mean, really good pick right there. So number 4 for me is Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez in the 2009 NFL draft. He's round 1, pick 5. The Jets traded up to 17th overall. They traded 17, their second round, and 3 players. The only player of note was Abram Elam, he was a safety. He was there in Cleveland for 2 or 3 more seasons. And they did that to move up to 5th. And on draft day, Steve Young was quoted as saying, "When you think of Mark Sanchez, you think of Drew Brees," which is wild because in his final year of college, he was 15th in completion percentage, 20th in passing yards, and he was 9th in passing touchdowns, 6th in passing efficiency. And just, I mean, we know he won some games for New York. We played him, but he also had his more memorable moments is the butt fumble, I would think, is what people are going to remember him for. So just an outrageous jump up in the draft for an average quarterback.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I mean, as Patriots fans, I mean, he and Rex Ryan, they were fairly successful. They had a couple runs here and there, but
really good
he
defenses.
wasn't. Yeah, 100%. He was good enough to not make too many mistakes at times.
Yes,
but absolutely, way overdrive.
Definitely. All right, who do you got at number 4?
Robert Gallery.
Oh man, that's a blast from the past, huh?
Yep. And he was picked number 2, and he's a Hall of Fame. A comparison's Mel Kiper the night of the draft. This is Jonathan Ogden. That's who I think of when I see this guy. He's gonna step right in, potential Hall of Famer down the road. Fans are gonna love him. This guy is just blue collar, drives the same car he's driven since he was 16. Not gonna get rid of it after he's drafted, and if he makes money. Like he was that guy, and he played 8 seasons in the NFL, and he was, I mean, fairly regular, 16 games, 14 games, whatever. But considering the
Yeah,
hype and the specials that Sports Center did on him and all this other stuff,
yeah.
just to be who he was, just no.
I can't fault Kuiper too much because I too would draft players based on the junky cars they drive. So, I mean,
Naturally.
how do you not draft Gallery? That's a really good one. My number 5 I saved for last, and I want anyone who's watching this. I picked 4 quarterbacks for a reason. I had to pick Jadeveon Clowney, but this is why we talk about don't just take the quarterback. Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert had so much hype coming into the draft. And I want to point out before I talk about everything, his junior year, which is the year before he goes into the draft, he was a monster. 3,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He wasn't top 20 in yards or touchdowns. He ranked 11th in passing completions and passing attempts, and that was the only place in college football where he even ranked in the top 20. He goes round 1, pick 10. Jaguars trade their first and second round pick to move up to 10. NFL.com graded him an 84 and his prospect score was a 7.5. They labeled him a perennial all-pro. They said he had prototype size and speed. He makes good pre-snap reads, quick release, and extends plays with his legs. Just absolutely out. His college numbers alone are enough to say, I could take this guy in the 3rd.
Yep. I always, for some reason, I always thought of Blaine Gabbert, Blake Bortles, Christian Hackenberg, like
Jake
guys like
Locker.
that. Always, yes, like those are the guys that I think of in that little crew. And Blake Bortles did a little bit more than everybody else that we just named,
Yeah.
but 100%.
All right. Who's your
Yep,
number 5?
I agree. It's a quarterback. You'll be proud, and
I
it's
like
one
that.
that I think all Boston fans will be okay with. It's Eli Manning.
I will say, man, people who from New York are not going to love us, huh?
No, probably not. But it's not even. I mean, he won 2 Super Bowls. He won them against us. We're gonna not like him because of that. But to go a little bit further than that, it was the hype. It was the guy. When we talk about generational talent, people talked about John Elway. They knew him coming in. They talk about Peyton Manning, Eli's brother. Like he was a difference maker. People would tank for that. Andrew Luck, people tanked for him. Like those are generational talents.
Yes.
Eli wasn't that. And when he gets drafted number 1 and refuses to play for San Diego, and Archie is a big part of that, Dad's going to come in and save.
Yeah.
He wasn't good enough for that attention. He wasn't good enough to have that power. If it wasn't for his father, he'd be playing for the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
But because he had the dad and the brother, that's why he could do it. But like I said, in my opinion, he wasn't good enough to have the attention, the hype, or that kind of treatment in the league to pick and choose where he was going to play. But he got to have it anyway. That's why.
Yeah, no, and I remember as well. I don't know which talking head said it, but somebody said, "Oh, he's better than Peyton." Like when he was coming out of Ole Miss,
Yeah.
he'll be a better pro than Peyton, and that to me was like, if he is better than Peyton, the league's got to look out. Which obviously he wasn't better than Peyton, so and that's how his career shaped up. So, that's all I got for my 5. You have your 5. Always, like I said, comment on all these. We want to hear from you, the fans, what you think of our list, and let us know your own list too. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. You got anything more to say on that, or you want to jump right into the Bruins?
No, I was just going to say, just remember that these are the ones that we chose. And we're not saying that they're the most overrated and most underrated.
Yes,
They were just sort of fun ones that we chose to work with, do the research on, and come to you guys with.
absolutely. And it's one of my favorite things to do because I love going back and looking at old drafts. I love looking at old players and stats and watching film. So I know you love doing it. I love doing it. I want to jump into the Bruins now because the Bruins are playing again tonight. They lead Toronto 1-0. I want to start with the bad of the first playoff game. And it was one thing, and it's been the same thing I've been worried about with the Bruins, the shot differential. I hate the fact that they're getting outshot every single night. It feels like they were outshot 36-24. They still win 5-1. They were watching the game. They were better than Toronto all night, but at some point that you're going to break, your goalie's going to break down when he sees that many shots. And that worries me. And it's about the only thing that worries me. So, I know it was rocking your world all over the place there because I could see that happening. What do you think about it? Do you have any thoughts on the shot differential? I mean, when it comes to them just being completely outshot, I want to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's definitely a cause for concern.
Yeah. I
hope
don't, sorry, I was gonna
Go
say, like, I don't not like the Bruins goalies because they have two of the top 10 goalies in the league. And we already know Jim Montgomery. Like, I don't know what they're going to do tonight. I'm hoping Swayman, he was so good. He stopped 36 or 37. Like, he was so good. This is what we talk about when you say a hot goalie. And it's like, but at some point, right? If you're only shooting 24 times and the other team's shooting 37 times, like that's a cause for concern for me.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it should. I mean, it should be that you're talking about. I mean, Gretzky famously said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, I mean, naturally, you should be able to score more if you shoot more. Now, if you have a guy standing on his head like 2011 Tim Thomas, then yeah, but what are the chances of one of these guys breaking off a run like that? Or both of them for that matter, if you're going to platoon, like, you know what I mean?
And I firmly believe it's like Swayman's your future anyway. So I want them to do with that with Swayman. That's really kind of all I have for the bad because watching this game, and I wrote it last night in my blog, it's like, I don't want to go too far. This isn't my overreaction take. It could have been, but it's like, I don't want to go over, but it's like watching that game restored my faith in them a little because they limped into the playoffs. They lost 3 of the last 4. Against Washington and Ottawa, it looked like they almost didn't want to be there. Like they were just like, we're in the playoffs. Who cares? But then I watched this game and it's like, they're definitely the more poised team on the ice. I mean, as long as Max Domi is on the ice, man, I would keep needling under his skin. Every time he's on the ice, it feels like he's slashing Marchand. They can only call it so many times, but they're going to keep calling it. So just whatever they're doing with him, just keep getting under his skin. I mean, when you talk about zero discipline, it's the playoffs, Domi. What are you doing right now? Like before the pucks dropped, he's hacking at Marchand. I was like, is this guy like, they don't drop the gloves like they do in the regular season. The fighting's kind of going kind of away too. The league's looking at CTE and that stuff, but I'm just watching him take these like he's chopping wood. I'm like, is this guy out of his mind or what?
I think to that point, I honestly think Toronto feels that they don't have a chance. So I think they're trying to play tough guy Bruins hockey, which is it's amazing to me because the offensive firepower that they have is scary. So the fact that they would do that, but it's almost like they tried to play Bruins, like old Bruins hockey, to try to like do something, and it's not going to work. In my opinion, you're taking yourself out of your own game. Play the way that got you there.
Without a doubt, they were second in the league in goals for per game. Nylander, Marner, and Matthews all were north of 80 points. They score at an impressive rate. They have to beat you on the offensive end. Ilya Samsonov is terrible. I don't watch a lot of Maple Leaf hockey because I'm from Boston. I see them when they play them, but I'm not watching Toronto games. So statistically, I knew Samsonov, his goaltender stats rank everywhere from like 38th to 45th. So I knew he wasn't good. But then I watched him in this game and I was like, oh, he's bad. Like before the series started, I said, oh, this one could go 7. I wouldn't be shocked if they get swept. That's how bad Samsonov is. Like, and if he's your number 1, good luck because they're not winning this series. I don't like if they win the series, I'll come back on here and say I'm wrong. After watching game 1, like I predicted 7 games, so I'll stick with it. And my picks were always going to be the Bruins to win at home, Toronto to win, at home. And then game 7 in Boston, they win. I don't know that it even comes to that. That's how bad he was. On top of that, I love Pat Maroon. I mean, I don't know how to say it with a straight face because when they acquired him, I was like, oh, great, they got Pat Maroon. I wanted so many different guys. I wrote about it. Dude, he was a force, man. I'm watching that game like I'm watching 90s hockey. He's putting guys over the boards into the bench. I mean, I think he had an assist on the first goal. It's like, man, this guy he's as advertised. There's a reason he's been to a bunch of Stanley Cups, right?
Yep, Big Rig is back, and I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, he's rested. I mean, he's fresh going into the playoffs, and he's physical, and they needed that. They absolutely needed that. And
Yeah.
he was very fun to watch, and he's gonna continue to be fun, I believe. I think having him on the ice, it kind of opens things up, and I mean, it makes Toronto think. And going back to the concern of them limping into the playoffs,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something and see how you feel about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if they limped into the playoffs. I think there's a chance, I'm not saying definite, that they wanted to avoid Tampa because they know 4-0 against Toronto in the regular season. They knew how it all lined up. I don't know if it was a limp or it was a strategic move.
So
playoffs.
I heard that narrative, and I see what you're saying, because why would you want to play Tampa when you could play Toronto? When you look at the teams, I had wrote, I don't want to see Tampa in the first round. Like, I thought they would lose to Tampa in the first round. And then when I heard that narrative, I'm like, no, this is professional. Like, this is professional sports. They can't predict every other outcome. But then when you watch the Washington and Ottawa games, it's like they were so bad and so outshot. But then it did when if you watch those games, Jim Montgomery's going nuts on the bench. So nobody told
Yeah.
him. And Swayman was playing out of his head when they lose 2-0. So no, he didn't get the memo either. You know what I mean? So, and then they came out in the Ottawa game and they outshot Ottawa in the third. So I don't think they did. But I won't rule it out, because I didn't want to see Tampa, but I mean, I'm not a competitor. I can't even ice skate. So, I mean, I don't think they did, but I would be shocked if they did, because like I said, I don't watch a lot of Toronto hockey. I know they can score. They cannot defend. Their defensive pairings were bad. They looked so undisciplined. The amount of penalties they took. I think the Bruins got 5 power plays. They scored on 2 of them. I'll tell you one thing I loved about the power play. I noticed that you had texted me and talked about Shattenkirk.
Yeah.
Shattenkirk bringing the puck up, I thought was like fantastic with Zacha and Pasternak trailing. And I don't even think they scored when those guys were on the ice. But I thought Shattenkirk looked like a vet, you know what I mean? Like, he's settling the puck down so there's a couple power plays I'm watching. I'm like, they're getting it into the zone. Immediately Toronto clears, and I'm like, come on, we're wasting so much time. It was like, as soon as Shattenkirk touched the puck and carried it up the ice on the dump in, it seems like that's when they started getting shots on net. And I was like, wow, this is I thought it was really good game planning by Jim Montgomery.
Yep, I agree 100%. That's why I text you. 100. Yeah, absolutely.
And is Jake DeBrusk David Krejci? Can he turn it on in the playoffs? Because he looked, I mean, this is what you were waiting for this guy to tap into something, right? All season.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he could. I mean, it's early, obviously. We're gonna see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has the ability to do so.
Yes.
We just here and there haven't been able to see it, and then obviously off the ice complaining and not wanting to be around.
Yeah.
But I mean, when his head's in the game and he's physically there, 100% he could be that guy. And I'm surprised we didn't mention that earlier.
Yeah. I mean, that's who he has to be. Like, if you're going far, we've talked about, Pasternak and Marchand, but you need DeBrusk, you need Coyle, Zacha, you need some of these, like McAvoy, him, like you're gonna need some of these other guys to step up. Like Pat Maroon is, I mean, we'll see how the rest of the series and playoffs play out, but I'm real impressed with Pat Maroon. I'm glad to see him. Big shout out Johnny Beecher too, for his first career playoff goal. That was perfect way to start the game. I'm watching. I'm like, my wife's falling asleep on the couch, and I'm like, going wild, for this, like, trying not to wake her up. But
Yep.
I mean, it was a great team win, and for as nervous as I was, this kind of put me at ease, because I don't think Toronto can hang with them on the ice. What do you think, going forward? Do you feel a little more confident in this?
I do. I don't, as long as the goalie situation doesn't get messed up. For me, it's always going to be based on Swayman and Olmark. It's
Yeah.
always going to be that. As long as that's clean, Jim Montgomery actually runs that the right way. I don't think it goes 7, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as the goalie situation is clean, I think they're good and earlier than we expected.
Without a doubt, I couldn't agree more with you. And I thought originally I did think it was going to go 7, and now I'm watching it. I'm like, there's no way it goes 7. So I'm really excited for tonight. I think they're definitely going to get another win on home ice. Like, I don't think Toronto's stealing one in Boston. No way, no how. And let's just move on to another team who I think should get swept. Let's talk Boston Celtics playoffs, because they should, I mean, to go on to your first initial overreaction, there's no way. I predicted this as well, and I said that it was going to go 5 games. The Heat are bad without Jimmy Butler. That's a bad roster. Like, the Celtics should sweep the Heat. I don't know how you feel about that.
They should, but I'm such a pessimist.
I know you are.
So with that being said, I think Miami at least takes 1. I think Spoelstra, he's a better coach than Joe Mazzulla. If you're a Boston fan and you're upset with me for saying that, then I apologize. But Eric Spoelstra is a better coach than Joe Mazzulla, like way better.
Which is funny, because when he had the big 3, I was like, Spoelstra, how easy is it to coach with those guys? And then, he sticks around for years and they're always good. So I do think Spoelstra I think he's a fantastic NBA coach.
I think he's a great coach.
Yeah.
And I think he can steal a game. You're going to have a game where Tyler Hero looks better. There's going to be a game where Highsmith does more. And he's the one that I watch to see if he's going to be able to add anything while Butler's out.
Yeah.
And Bam can win a game as well. I mean, Bam Adebayo he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. So I think they at least steal 1, 5, maybe 6. And I think that's where it'll be.
If they win a game, it's in Miami. Which is what I kind of, when Jimmy Butler was going to be out, and even if he comes back, he's not 100%. He's not, you know what I mean? It means he's just trying to will through for the team. And I do want to say, like, I'm disappointed that he's not playing, because Jimmy Butler is one of my favorite players to watch. I love his game. And I never want to see a player get hurt. It's just not, it's not good for the game anyway. Like, I want to see my team beat the most competitive Miami team, because Tyler Hero going 4 for 13 tells me he is probably not a superstar. He needs to be a number 2. You know what I mean? He's not going to be the same without Jimmy Butler. Bam is great. I thought Kristaps Porzingis looked really good down low. Like, I don't think he got bullied like I kind of thought he might. And again, when I say I wanted to see Jimmy Butler out this, how did you feel about Caleb Martin's hard foul on Tatum?
I'm having a really difficult time because I'm watching the video. I've watched it multiple times. I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to take everything in. I tried to watch a couple different angles because I don't want to just immediately, it was dirty, without seeing it. When you watch the video and you slow it down, you can see Drew Holiday has hands on him, on Caleb Martin, and he pushes him a little bit. But I don't think it was enough of a push to force the foul that had happened.
Okay.
It concerns me that Spoelstra called a timeout right before that. The game was over. I mean, the game was in the books at that point, in my opinion. He calls a timeout, and shortly after that timeout, I think Brian Scalabrine talked about this, how it's super sketchy the timeout was called, and all of a sudden this is the play that happens after the timeout when the game was already out of reach.
Yeah.
There's a million ways to look at it. You know, you shouldn't have had Tatum on the floor in the first place, blah, 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 whatever. But I'm going to tell you one thing. What I liked about that situation is the way Tatum got up and just walked away.
Okay.
And said, no, let's go. He looked motivated. He looked like, I'm not getting into this. This isn't what it's going to go. We're just going to beat you guys. He kind of had a look on his face and it gave a little nod like, okay, like he understood where we were.
Yeah.
Do I think it was dirty? Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, it was absolutely unnecessary. A hip check. It was dirty, in my opinion.
I think this is my take on it, and it's a strong take. It was a phantom push. He wasn't pushed. Everything you said is correct. I loved it. I love that Caleb Martin did it. I love that the Heat and the Celtics hate each other. It reminded me of NBA, like 90s NBA basketball. I loved it. They don't like each other. I don't want them to like each other. I love that Tatum popped back up. I like that Jaylen Brown stepped in. I loved
Yeah.
everything about it. I love that a technical was not called. Fine them if you want to, because it was a dirty play. It was 100% dirty, but Tatum didn't get hurt. If Tatum falls on his neck right there and he's out for the series, then I think Caleb Martin should be out for the series. Like that's how I'm a, almost eye for an eye type of guy. If something's that flagrant and dirty and it meant to happen and you get a guy hurt because of it, then you're gone too. But I loved it. I thought it was just, they were frustrated. They're getting their heads kicked in and they hate Boston and we hate Miami. We're going back and forth with Heat fans because this is a rivalry at this point. The last few years, these are the two best teams in the East and they're always playing each other in the playoffs. And now Miami loses Jimmy Butler, who's their heart and soul. The only way that they can beat Boston is to beat them up physically and get in their head and try to make Boston play down to them in a dirty game. I thought it was a genius play by Miami. Dirty as it may be, I did not want the technical foul. I love that Tatum bounced back up, and I love hard basketball like that. I think there needs more of it. If that's LeBron James, I mean, he might get carried off in a stretcher. The whole team wants to fight. I think Caleb Martin would have got thrown out. I love how this happened. And because I don't think, Tatum should have been even on the floor at that point. I thought Missoula was really trying to push him to get a triple double. But again, that kind of talks to his competitive nature as well. I don't think he wanted to come out.
No, Tatum is definitely not a guy who skips, and I don't know if he got that from his connection with Kobe. He's not a guy they've talked about it coming to the end of the season. Jaylen Brown would have a game off, Porzingis would have the hamstring issue. He'd be out for the game. And Missoula would go to Tatum and say, all right, tonight's your night off. And Tatum you see reports of this. Tatum's like, nah, I actually kind of want to play tonight. And he'd go out there and play 34 minutes.
Yeah.
I think he likes being out there. He enjoys being out there. I'm going to give a little pushback. I'm not a huge fan of the play. I'm not going to say I loved it.
I did.
Because somebody could get hurt. And a trade-off of, okay, so you suspend, let's say Jason Tatum falls on his neck, and okay, we're going to suspend Caleb Martin for the rest of the series because of an eye for an eye. That's not eye for an eye, man. Losing Caleb Martin versus Jason Tatum, that's like a hockey fight when you have somebody trying to fight Connor McDavid, who's a bum, who's a fourth liner. Like, yeah. That's not a good trade-off. That's not it. That's so only because, if it went the other way, I'd probably be defending it because I'm a Boston fan.
Yeah.
I try to be unbiased, but we all struggle with it here and there.
Sure.
But I don't know what this opens up because the Celtics don't have. It was always Marcus Smart was the enforcer. He was the guy that was going to protect the guys. You had Grant Williams. I won't get started on that. But you don't have that guy, and I don't know if that's part of it. Hey, they're beating us, and they have nobody who's going to fight back. So we might as well go after these guys. And remember, they still have it in their head that Jaylen Brown's dirty because he hurt Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
So that's part of it as well. I don't want to see it. I like the physical play. I like the tough play. But I don't want to see either side get hurt.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see injuries, but I do. I loved the hard nature of it. I don't think Caleb Martin's trying to hurt him. I just think he's trying to be tough because that is the only way they're beating them. They have to break them down and hope that Boston decides we're going to play like this. Because Boston's game went exactly how we thought it would. They only went 3 players deep on the bench. They're up 30 and it's Pritchard, Hauser, Horford, who all had 30 points. Like, it's exactly how we thought the game was going to go. And Miami is a bad roster without Jimmy Butler. And the game, we've said this before, we always talk about that. Not every team can be Golden State. Are we wrong about that? Because I broke down some stats and I'm going to give them to you. You say yes or no. It's up to you. But I'm going to give you 2015, 17, and 18. The Warriors in 2000, these are the regular season numbers. The Warriors shoot 40%, 38%, 39%, all in succession, right? That's the regular season numbers. In the postseason, they shoot 37%, 39%, 36%. The Celtics shot 38%, which falls right in the middle, and they're shooting 45% through one game. Super small sample size.
Yeah.
But to say that like not every team can be them, the 2017 Warriors shot the most 3-pointers. They went 982 for 2,562 and shot 38%. The Celtics this year shot 38%. They went 1,351 for 3,482. They shot almost 1,000 more threes than them and shot exactly the same percent. Are they the Warriors? Like, are we wrong about this?
I'll say no right now.
Well, you're wrong, but okay.
Well, I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind. No, the only reason I say that is because right now they're playing against a team that you just said has a horrible roster.
Yeah.
So for me, if they do it against a Denver, I mean, I don't even have an East team that I can say. So yeah, if they do it against a Denver, let's say they get to the finals, complete hypothetical, and they do it against Denver and they continue with that, absolutely. 100% I will agree with you. Or say yes. But through one game, like I want to see what happens when they're not hitting their threes. Can they adjust? Does Joe Mazzulla come in and all of a sudden they have plays set up? And my biggest thing with the Celtics sometimes, ball movement and then movement without the ball.
Yeah.
Instead of the ISO ball where it's Tatum's turn, it's Brownstone. We've talked about this too many times. I want to see movement without the ball. I mean, Peyton Pritchard seems like the only guy who knows how to move around the court when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. I want to see a little bit more. So to me, they could be. I guess they could be. I guess my answer is not no. They could be. It's just too early, obviously, in this playoff season to be speaking to it.
Yeah.
And again, what happens when the threes aren't dropping? I mean, 45% yesterday was phenomenal. I mean, they came out early, and Sam Hauser comes out, hits 3 in a row. Like it was great. Yeah. What happens when they're not? And against better competition.
And that, I mean, I know what you're saying. I just think, I mean, for an entire season and they're shooting 38%, they have to get it done. If you don't win the title, it doesn't matter. It's like the Warriors going 73-9. You didn't win the title, so it's not the greatest season ever. It's the Patriots going 18-1. Not the greatest season ever. Sorry. You cannot be the best ever. If you did it, then you are. So the Celtics need to win the title. And as far as I'm concerned, looking at the East now, I know it's only one game and it's a huge jump, but looking at the East right now, if you're not in the NBA Finals, it's a huge failure of a season, if you ask me.
I agree 100%. I don't think it's as big of a bust as the 73-9 Warriors, like somebody tried to say on Twitter yesterday.
Definitely not.
But no, 100%. I have said it. I said it on Twitter, and I think I said it in one of my blogs, that I believe if they do not get to at least the finals, you have to seriously sit down if you're Wick Grossbeck and Brad Stevens, and you need to discuss Joe Mazzulla, and
Definitely.
you need to discuss the connection of the two Jays. Because if they can't do it with this season, with bringing in Drew Holiday and bringing in Kristaps Porzingis, still having Derek White, Al Horford, et cetera, you have to wonder if you'll be able to do it with those two young guys. And they're still young enough, but you have to at least wonder and talk about it, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. That's all we're going to do on the playoffs. We have a lot more playoff talk coming up in the weeks ahead. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get to our quick questions. We put out on Twitter that we were going to answer questions on our show. So we had people ask questions, and we're going to answer a couple of them now. Steve, I'm going to start with you. Or do you actually? I'll let you start off.
Yeah, we got just a quick one from @JHauser12 on Twitter, and he asked, "What should the Pats do at pick number 3?" What's your opinion, Eli?
At number 3, very quickly, I'm trading back so I can get Joe Alt. If no one will trade with me, I'm taking Joe Alt anyway. I want a left tackle for the next decade who's going to protect whoever my quarterback is, because that sets up the rest of my draft. That's my answer. Stevie from @Cowboy_Reg. What are the Patriots' top 3 needs in the draft?
In my opinion, offensive tackle, quarterback, wide receiver.
In that order?
Particular order.
Oh,
no particular order. No, I think it would be offensive tackle, wide receiver, quarterback if I had to do it real quickly off the top of my head. Just because I don't think this roster is set up for a quarterback to do anything right now, so I would hold off on the quarterback, but that's why.
All right, perfect. What's the next one?
So this is from @MafiaMembersPod. Would you rebuild through drafts, or would you trade for younger players and do it that way instead?
I'm doing it through the draft. Thank you for the question. I'm doing it for the draft. Nobody's trading young talent. If you have young talent on your roster, unless you don't want to pay them because you're Bill Belichick and the Patriots, basically. I'm going through the draft at this point and should be going through free agency, but they didn't. But I'm going through the draft. I might be trading back to get more picks in the next coming years. Trading for young talent means that you're giving up draft picks. And I don't think there's young players out there, like the really good young players in the league. I don't think teams are moving on from, unless they're a really bad team, which the Patriots are. And they're not that close. So I'm going to the draft right now. There was a second part of that question. It's coming at Steve right now. It is from at Mafia Members Pod. And what is the acceptable timeline for you, Steve, to compete for tops in the division?
I think 3 to 4 years is where I am. And the funny thing is, I think if you had gotten rid of Bill Belichick when you got rid of Tom Brady, that's where you'd be right now. And you might have had somebody who actually knew how to rebuild a team. But anyway, yeah, I think doing it through the draft, doing it the right way. The only trades that I would talk about in that situation for the young talent is something like if you found a way to get a T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk or something. AJ Brown, I guess, is the newest one.
Yeah.
But outside of that, yeah, I'd say 3 to 4 years, as long as it's done the right way and you don't bring in another. If you bring in a quarterback to this system, if you're bringing a Drake May and you start him right now, you're going to ruin him. You're going to be drafting a quarterback again in 3 years. You're going to set that timeline back, in my opinion. So I think 3 to 4 years, if it's done correctly, I think that's when you could consider being back in it.
Okay.
All right. So Eli from Jones and for Sports, our partner here at JN4Sports on Twitter. What are your thoughts on Robert Kraft tarnishing Bill Belichick's opportunity to get a job in the NFL this season? Next season.
All right. So very simply put, I do not believe it. The reports were all pretty thin and I didn't buy it. I think what hurts Bill the most is Bill. I think Bill wants total control, and I think any good owner shouldn't give him control because he's a very poor GM. He is a very good coach. He's a great coach, if you ask me. But I don't think Robert would purposely do that. I think they have a good professional relationship. It fell apart somewhere, the same it did with Brady. But I think Robert wants to be liked so much in the NFL. He wants the Hall of Fame that he isn't purposefully doing anything. I think this is more about Bill and less about Kraft as to why he doesn't have a job. NFL owners are geared towards younger offensive-minded coaches. Bill Belichick wants total control, and he's a defensive guy. That's where I see it. And our last question in this segment is a DM from our buddy Luke, a good friend of the show. Steve, will the Celtics win the NBA championship?
I'm going to say yes.
All right, good. Yes. I love that answer. Do you want to elaborate or just a simple yes from you?
To be honest, I think the additions that they obviously made, we've already gone over, and I think they're going to be able to put it together. I think Tatum has it in him this year to try to prove something. I think he's sick of the MVP, not even being in the conversation anymore. It's always Luka, this guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he wants it, so I think he's going to try to put himself. And he said it earlier. He said that he's going to be the next face of the league, and I think without a title, you're not. So I think he knows that.
All right. And then we are going to wrap up the show with something that Steve has no idea what we're about to do. Steve, there are 8 playoff games tonight. I'm going to rattle them off. I want to know who you're picking to win. No point differential, just who's going to win. Steve, who's winning the Bruins Maple Leafs tonight?
Bruins.
Magic versus Cavs.
Cavs.
76ers Knicks.
Knicks.
Lakers Nuggets.
Nuggets.
Islanders Hurricanes.
Islanders.
Golden Knights Stars.
I'm going Golden Knights.
All right. And Kings Oilers. There's only 7 games. I apologize.
Oilers.
All right. Steve, great show again today. I had a blast with you. I want to mention, as always, we are partnered with Jones and for Sports. We make sports better. Steve, any final thoughts on the show today?
No, I'm trying to say it's always fun talking to you, and I want to thank all the guys on Twitter that sent in the questions. Continue. Everybody on here that's watching, send questions in. We can answer them. We'll give you a shout out next time.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you, everyone who watches. It is a fun time. We have the playoffs. If your teams aren't fortunate enough to beat them, join the bandwagon. Go Celtics, go Bruins, go Red Sox. We are still in our chase to 90 wins. Steve, that's all I got for you today. And I can't wait to do it next time. We will have a new Boston boy joining us Thursday. We are going to do an NFL draft show, and Kiefer will be joining us. And I will unfortunately be on vacation, and Kiefer and Steve will probably join you with a podcast of their own until I'm back. But until then, everybody, enjoy the sports out there. It is such a great time to be a fan. We have baseball season, we have playoffs in the NBA and NHL and the NFL draft coming up. Thank you again for watching us. Steve, have a great day.
You too, bud.